Yeah, welcome to 40 Sports Talk. We today will have Sarah Griffin, a sports journalist from, I believe it's the Boston Globe, right, Casey? Or
I don't think so.
Okay, never mind, not the Boston Globe. She covers professional lacrosse. The PLL is one of the leagues that she does, the Professional Lacrosse League. She is going to be calling in today in a couple minutes.
And she also works for the NHL.
She works for the NHL too?
Yeah.
Nice, Casey.
Yeah, apparently she's got a long list of her resume is quite long, so I'm really interested in talking to her. She is a graduate of Bridgewater State with a bachelor's in history and communications. So I have a lot of questions as to how she got to be a sports journalist.
Yeah,
and
she's local
why
too.
Local arts, I mean, why local sports? So she must have a connection with the MIAA, as well as, a passion for lacrosse and hockey, women's hockey, baseball. That's first on her list. So quite interested in finding out more about her. So her name is Sarah Griffin. And yeah, as soon as she calls in, we're going to get going. I am just going to be paparazzi as I normally am and make sure the stream is working and everything else. So guys, you can take it away.
Yeah, okay, so today we'll be, of course, we talked about Sarah Griffin.
Yeah.
One big thing about this is she's a local person who actually grew to obviously get to the NHL, get to the PLL. Mm-hmm. Pretty impressive to see that one. It's just a town over. She's from North Attleboro High School. Went to Bridgewater State, which is, of course, regional as well, and now she's working with the NHL, PLL. She even had some minor league baseball gigs that she was talking about on her website.
Yeah.
So almost every single sport she covers, not really one that she just lacks. So we're going to talk to her about if she started off with about like youth sports, covering that type of stuff, or she just started immediately into professional sports. I think that's going to be a good way to segue into this. We are currently just waiting for the call right now. But Justin, obviously when you were researching this interview, you mentioned before the show the Family Guy connection with the last name.
Oh.
That's going to be pretty funny to ask her about that for sure. The last name is Griffin, of course.
Oh, yeah, because the family and Family Guy is Griffin.
Yeah. Then, Casey, were you the one who set up this interview, basically, and got her to come in the studio?
Yes, I am.
What was the way that you communicated with her, basically? Was it just email? Was it phone calls? Or how did you get
just
this?
like Messenger.
Messenger?
Yeah.
Huh. Nice. That's awesome, Casey.
So
And-
really, Casey, you
Yeah.
just kind of messaged her on Facebook and said, "Hey, do you want to come on the show?"
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. And she right away.
Yeah, and the girl that called in a couple weeks ago when we had the North Attleboro field hockey team.
Right.
Yeah, she and Sarah, all of us, we're all good friends. Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you talked to her in high school? Were you the same grade as her? Or?
She was 2 grades above me.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
Did not realize that, actually. That's pretty cool to see.
Yeah.
And then did she do anything in high school that you could recall that really made you think that she was going to be in sports media, basically?
I know she was on the gymnastics team.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually really cool, though. We got to talk to her about how she switched from being an athlete to a broadcaster, of course. That's going to be pretty cool to see that connection.
Yep, that was one of my questions as well.
Yeah, we are just currently waiting for that call. It's about 12:05 right now. Should be coming in a couple minutes. And if you want to call in, it's 508-222-1320.
That's got to be her right now.
Looks like we are getting the call right as we say that. One sec. Hello, you are live on 40 Sports Talk. Are we talking to Sarah Griffin right now?
Yes, this is.
Nice. Welcome to the show, Sarah. We are now ready to start the interview over the phone. Sarah Griffin's calling in. She is a sports journalist. She went to Bridgewater State, went to North Attleboro High School. Now she works with major leagues such as the PLL, the NHL, many more different leagues. So, Sarah, to start this off, would you want to give just the audience a little bit of a general analysis of how you started off in broadcasting and how your sports media career kind of blossomed?
Yeah, so it's weird. I actually went to Bridgewater State to be a high school history teacher, and I've always been interested in sports and sports writing, but I never really thought it was anything like plausible for me. And then junior year, I kind of just started a sports writing blog on my own just for fun. I had done like a couple athletics like internships, just doing like PR stuff for the communications department, but nothing crazy. And over time, my sports writing blog kind of started to take off a little bit just because I was putting it everywhere on social media. And I kind of noticed, like, okay, like I was able to get a following of these people that were reading my articles. So I was like, maybe it is something I can do. And so then senior year, I switched from education to just communications and just basically took on a bunch of random different internship roles. My first not major, but my first role as like a sports writer was with a hockey website, just covering the Bruins, which then led me to working for the Providence Bruins. And from there, it's just kind of gone up. I've had a few different jobs now over the years, but now I've settled in with the NHL as well as professional lacrosse.
No, that's awesome. It's really cool to see the journey basically going from where you started off. You said you wanted to be a high school history teacher. I can't imagine a couple of years ago you thought you were going to be doing all this with the NHL especially.
Absolutely not, no.
Yeah, so then you are one of the main supporters of the PLL right now, as you mentioned. So I wanted to ask you, lacrosse obviously has a massive future coming up. What do you think is going to be the growth of that over the next couple of years, and when do you think it's really going to start to boom?
Yeah, so the good thing about lacrosse is because right now the PLL, they started off in 2019, and then they had their COVID season in the bubble, which I feel like kind of hindered things. Then last year they started to see more again with ticket sales, more people are getting interested. They do a really good job too with their social marketing of it. And so now this year they've expanded because they do a tour style. It's not city-based, there's not a Boston team or anything. It's just they go to different locations throughout the season. And so this season they're doing a lot of West Coast locations too, which they haven't really done in the past. So I think it's good because you're getting the sport out to these places because obviously we know lacrosse is a hotbed on the East Coast. But now that you're getting it in front of fans all over the place, it's easier to grow the sport that way. And then you add on to the fact that they do have this growing kind of social presence that now you are seeing it. You see them on ESPN, they're on SportsCenter between the NLL, PLL, college lacrosse. There's more eyes on the sport now than ever, and that's only going to continue to grow.
Yeah, you mentioned how it was just really had a lot of notoriety in the East Coast. Spreading off to the West Coast is going to be massive for that league. I did not realize they were actually doing that because they've done a lot of events at Gillette Stadium, I know, which has just helped the support for lacrosse throughout the East Coast, obviously. When it goes to the West Coast, it's going to be capturing both sides of the U.S. It's going to be awesome to see.
Oh, yeah. I think they're going to Seattle in August, and that's the first time I think that there will ever be any big lacrosse there. And I was talking to my podcast co-host about this because we were I don't really know what the lacrosse scene is like in Seattle, but then you also take into account Canada, they love lacrosse there, and that's so close to the west coast of Canada that I know some people from Victoria, British Columbia, they're yeah, we're going to take the trip down to Seattle because they've never seen a PLL game because they are usually on the East Coast. So then you do have those people on the west coast of Canada too that can now make that trip.
I did not even think about the Canadian audience. That's actually a really smart move by them. What I was thinking, though, was Seattle has not really had a professional sports team. I believe they have the Krakens right now, but most of the other teams they don't really have. So having a lacrosse team there or having the lacrosse meet up there for a tournament, that's going to be just amazing for the sport. You're going to be getting so many viewers from that.
And I think it also helps, too, that they have the Kraken there now because I feel there's a lot of overlap in hockey fans and lacrosse fans where they're similar enough that, especially with box lacrosse, which obviously PLL, that's field lacrosse, but still, if you enjoy one form of lacrosse, you usually enjoy the other too. So I feel it's going to help that you have a lot of new hockey fans that are now looking to kind of just expand their reach, so they'll be more likely to want to go to a game, especially because PLL games, they're affordable in terms of most of the sports. Baseball's always crazy price. Football games are insane. Lacrosse you can go to for $20-$40.
Yeah, right now is the golden era for a fan of lacrosse. You can go to the games just so cheap every single time. And then you're obviously seeing the best competition in the world right now because those are the only professionals who are playing lacrosse right now.
Oh yeah, it's insane how much talent there is. I was saying the other day, there's only so many PLL teams, but I'm like you said, it's the best of the best. So every team is just stacked, and it's very hard to predict with who's going to win in either the PLL or the NLL because the teams are so stacked. Like you said, those are the only professional players in the world, and they're all in one place.
Yeah, one thing I think is going to be massive for professional lacrosse in the next couple of years. I think there's going to be a massive talent boom because as the years kind of progress on, more studies come out. A lot of parents are switching their kids over from full contact sports to a little bit half contact sports like lacrosse. I really think that the talent pool is just going to spread so much more in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I've interviewed a couple of guys over the last year or so who have all said like, I actually got into lacrosse because my parents didn't want me playing football because they were just nervous about the physical contact of it all and like injuries and whatnot. So I feel like you said, like that's something that it's going to start trending that direction as more research comes out about that stuff, and I think more people are hesitant.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that just any sport really that doesn't involve head-to-head contact, because there's so many of them now, that those are going to just get massive booms in the next couple of years as people want just have more safety for their children and stuff. I don't think that's going to take away at all from the football or the hockey kids, basically. That's not going to take away the talent from there. But more kids who would not have participated in sports before are going to go for the safer option of lacrosse.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, Sarah, this is Lucy Cabral, by the way. Thanks for coming on the show, or at least your voice, anyway. Just a couple questions. I'm really intrigued about you were a history major, and then you switched over to sports. Like, why? Were you an athlete? I mean, always had an interest in sports? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. I did always have an interest in wanting to work in sports. Like my first big love was baseball, and I remember watching in elementary school because my family diehard Red Sox fans, like most people in New England.
Right.
And I remember seeing on NESN all these female reporters that are at all the games, and in my house, just oh, they're going to all these baseball games. They get to talk to the players. I just thought that was so cool. That's something that I really wanted to do. But then as high school progressed and stuff, and I looked more into it during the college process, I was I don't really think that's something that's a likely path. A lot of people want to do that. And I know it involved you need all these high-end internships, or at least that's what I thought. You have to be working at ESPN and stuff. And I was I'm going to go to Bridgewater. I knew I was going to Bridgewater, and I'm I like history. I like teaching. So that's kind of just what I stuck with. And I did graduate with my history degree. I dropped the education program, but I was I made it this far with history. So then I just picked up the communications and replacement. But yeah, just kind of junior year, I realized that as I was doing all this sports writing on my own and stuff, that's where my passion was. And it definitely took me a while to make the decision, just because I'm that's pretty risky. I don't know, again, sports media, so many people want to go into it, whereas I'm teaching, the world's always going to need teachers. So I was very hesitant. It took a while and a lot of talks with my parents before I made the switch.
Yeah, no, that switch definitely worked out for the best in the end, though. So, Sarah, we are approaching our first break right now. Could we keep you on the line for a couple more segments of the show, basically?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, nice. Thank you, Sarah. We will be right back. We have the interview right now with Sarah Griffin. She is one of the writers for the PLL, NHL, many other sports. We'll be right back. This is 40 Sports Talk. We'll see you soon.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at 1320 AM WARA. We are here talking on the phone with Sarah Griffin. Hey Sarah, it's Catherine Conley. How are you?
Hi, Catherine. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, it's great to hear your voice.
I know. I'm so excited to be on here.
Me too. Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, what does professional lacrosse, like the PLL, is that like another kind of league? Well, we're like a girls' league?
Yeah, so there's actually, I was confused about this at first too when I got into covering professional lacrosse. So there's the PLL and there's the NLL. So the PLL is the Premier Lacrosse League. That's played in the summer. It's field lacrosse. Whereas the NLL, that's being played now, it's the National Lacrosse League. It's mainly more predominantly Canadian, but there are teams they are city-based in like Georgia, San Diego, Fort Worth, Denver. But they play box lacrosse, which box lacrosse isn't as big in the United States. It is more a Canadian thing. And it's very similar almost to like a mix of hockey and basketball, that it's indoor. There's only like 5 guys on the floor for each team at a time. And it's a lot more fast-paced.
Yeah, Sarah, thank you for explaining that. Gotta be honest, I tried my best to explain that during the break. Did not realize it was Premier. I got one of two. We got National. Thought it was professional instead of Premier. That was the thing. All right, Justin, you want to give Sarah one of the questions to start off?
Sure. My first question is, what is it that made you interested into becoming a sports journalist?
Yeah, so for me, it was just like I've always have been interested in covering sports, and I actually really like writing. Like, writing's just always been something in general that I've really loved to do. And so then I kind of just thought, like, junior year of college, I was like, well, why don't I combine the two just to give myself a break from, like, schoolwork and just, like, the same history essays that I was writing. And that just kind of led that I, like, found, okay, I really enjoy doing this. And also I'm not too bad at it. So I'm like, maybe I should just kind of run with this.
No, yeah, 100%. That was a good question, Justin, for sure. But so, Sarah, what I'd like to transition to now, we've obviously talked about the start of your sports broadcasting career and your sports journalist career, I meant to say. But what I'd like to ask you, throughout that sports career, obviously you've probably been to some unique scenarios, unique places. What do you think the most interesting thing that's happened for you specifically from this job has been?
That's a good question. I would say last year, definitely, I think kind of just getting into lacrosse, that was a very big change for me because I have been someone that's I was way more interested in baseball, and then I kind of just took this freelance opportunity. But since then, like, lacrosse has given me so many opportunities where, like, it's such an accessible sport to, like, the players and stuff that they want to be talking to journalists all the time. So I've been able to, like, travel actually a lot more in the last year than I ever have before, which is super cool, and got to know so many of those players. And then in turn, that kind of led me into my NHL job that I have now, which has been, like, insane. I just remember during my training session for the job, I had to go to Warrior Ice Arena where the Bruins practice, and I had to, like, fill out some paperwork or whatever, but I was just, like, in there with, like, all these, like, high-ups in the Bruins organization. I was like, I do not belong here, but this is so cool.
No, that's awesome.
The players must look like giants to you, huh?
Oh, yeah. Some of them, I'm just like, I don't even know how we are, like, the same species. Like, you are just, like, huge and muscular. I'm just, like, this 5'4" girl.
I have to tell you, I sang the national anthem before one of their games.
Pretty oh, my gosh, really?
Crazy. Pretty crazy, yes. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
I think that sounds so fun.
Oh, my goodness. Anyway.
Yeah, so, Sarah, obviously NHL players are massive. I have never really been able to tell, though. Are lacrosse players like that, too, for professional leagues? Or are they kind of just superhumans as well?
Yeah, there's definitely some guys that are just, like, nuts. They're so, like, it's, like, the same thing as, like, any other league. You have those guys who just, like, their lives will revolve around, like, working out and playing. So that's, like, all they do, and they're just massive. But then the other thing is you have guys, like, there's a lot of professional lacrosse players because it is, like, it's not a sport yet that you can really make it, like, your full-time thing. that like they have regular 9-to-5 jobs, and like a lot of them will work office jobs, or they're like firefighters, police officers, and so they're just like normal guys that you see out on the street. Like you would never know, like, wow, he's one of the most professional lacrosse players in the world.
Yeah, living a little bit of a double life when they're in that league for sure.
Yeah, I always had this weird like comparison to like ice hockey and lacrosse, like, well, boys style, like, you know, like how like the boys, they just like hit each other with the lacrosse sticks. Like it's very different in girls lacrosse. I would believe so.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
100%.
there's definitely a huge difference with men and women's lacrosse, because women's lacrosse, I've mainly just watched like college women's lacrosse, and even then, like, you have the best of the best players, but it's such a completely different game, even just from like the men's field, because men's field lacrosse, like, even though fighting's not allowed or anything, you still see them like hacking at each other and going right at them, whereas women's have so many rules in place to make sure that no one's going to like get smacked down to the ground, that it's a lot more like you have to be very particular with your defense in women's lacrosse.
Yeah, Casey, I used to play a little bit of men's lacrosse, and one thing that everyone on the team basically would do, they'd tell each other where the weak points in the like opposing people's padding would be. So there'd be like points in between the forearm, points in between the shoulder, where if you smacked right there, it hit them, but it wouldn't seem like you hit them, so you'd perfectly get away without fighting.
Yeah.
Girls lacrosse has none of that, I can promise that.
No, I know. I played lacrosse for 1 year.
Yeah,
in high
Casey?
school. Yeah.
Nice, that's awesome. I forgot about that, honestly.
Yeah.
So we still have about 5 minutes left before the next break. But what I'd like to ask you about, Sarah, would you like to start talking a little bit about, I believe it's 3 podcasts I saw that you're a part of, realizing 2 of them might not have been podcasts, 2 of them were websites, which were the Pitcher List and Lacrosse Flash I'd like to talk to you about first.
Yes, so Pitcher List, that's where I started off for baseball writing. It was actually July 2020, so it was right as that like baseball COVID season was opening up. And Pitcher List, they're like very well known in the baseball community just for their like statistics and analytics. They've come up with all these like crazy stats, and I will admit I'm not a big baseball like advanced stat person, so I was like, I don't know how well I fit in here. But they're like, no, like we need someone to keep it like lighthearted and like give like the stories that like aren't as like, okay, here's this guy like WBA, like all these crazy acronyms. And it's been really fun because I've met so many like super smart people in baseball and gotten connected to them, and it was like my first like real like professional writing experience outside of like the Providence Bruins, which I was only at for a few months because then their season got canceled. And then now I'm at Lacrosse Flash, which is where I do pretty much all my lacrosse coverage for the NLL. For the PLL, I'm working directly under them, so I probably won't do as much then with Lacrosse Flash. But yeah, so I do writing for them as well as their socials.
Nice, yeah. So that's I was kind of just awestruck for a second when I was thinking about it. You started off with Pitcher List during the COVID boom, basically. You kind of took one of the most select jobs during one of the hardest times to find those jobs. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I got lucky with that because I had been connected with one of the presidents of Pitcher List. Like, we had spoken once in a while, and he said that he was reading my articles because at this point I was just like, during the COVID time, before I got that position with Pitcher List, I was still just running my own blog, and I was like, all right, I'll just put as much out as possible. I have all the free time in the world, like everyone else right now. So I'm like, I'll just keep putting stuff out so I have like stuff for my like portfolio or resume down the road. And then he like reached out to me and was like, yeah, we're looking for one more writer. Would you be interested? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, some people use the extra time during quarantine to maybe take a couple like trick shot videos, learn how to cook. You kind of started your entire career during that. That's a better use of time than anyone else during that, I can't say.
Mm-hmm. Big time.
Yeah, it was a good time for me to just kind of focus mainly on my career in writing, and which it was hard at first just because there was no sports being played, but I'm like, whatever. There are people who are still able to do it. I can try my best, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, definitely worked out. The fact that you could even report on sports during the time where there were no sports obviously shows that you have a place in this industry. If you're able to do it when there's no other like content to base it on, that shows that you're one of the best in it. That's great to see. So one thing I want to talk to you about, obviously, is the podcast I saw that you're part of, Saturdays and Seltzers. Would you want to explain to the audience what that is a little bit?
Yes, so it's me and my co-host Kendra Middleton. She works for Nessa and she does college sports like ringside reporting, and she's also one of the hosts on Dirty Water. And so basically we kind of just like met over the summer and saw we had a lot of similar interests. We're like, there's not a ton of podcasts out there. There's just like two women talking about sports, and I'm like, she's very much more of a football, basketball person, and then I'm obviously more like baseball, hockey, lacrosse. So like, okay, we can cover a lot there just between the two of us, So we just decided to get together, and so it's just a podcast we do once a week where we just kind of go through all those different sports news from each of those sports, as well as some pop culture stuff, and then just like regular like friends just talking back and forth, and it's super fun.
Yeah, you made a really good point when you said there's not really that many podcasts about sports that are hosted by two women. There's a massive amount of women fans for obviously the MLB, PLL, NHL, obviously the other sports leagues. They should have representation on a podcast like you're doing. That's just great to see it for the community, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And we try and have guests every like couple weeks or so. And we started off, so our first guest was actually a PLL player, Matt Rambo, and like he's awesome. He's one of the best. But after that, we're like, like as cool as that is, I'm like, we are a women's podcast, like women's sports, whatever. So now our thing has been just only having female guests, and it's been so cool just to like talk to so many women who work in different industries and different sports, or we've had like a professional women's hockey player on. It's just been really cool to hear all these different women's stories about what got them involved in sports.
Yeah, from what I can tell, the matriarchy is taking over now. It's just great to see. Yeah, no, so throughout, obviously, doing that podcast with your host, would you say that has kind of brought you two a little bit closer? Obviously, both of you working for reporting professional leagues. Has that really just improved both of your actual professional lives and basically made you a little bit more comfortable behind the scenes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like, I know for me, I've been someone that I'm like, don't put me on camera. Like, I'm so bad at, like, just, like, speaking. And so I was like, I don't know how well I would do on a podcast. But since then, like, after I got over that, like, first, like, few-week hump, it helped me so much just, like, in interviews, like, not just, like, job interviews, but also just, like, interviewing players, or like this summer I'm going to be doing a lot more work at the PLL, like in front of the camera, which normally that would like freak me out. But I'm like, okay, no, I feel comfortable. I can do this. Like I now have experience. And so no, it's really helping that aspect, as well as also just because I do kind of live in my little bubble of like baseball, hockey, lacrosse. I feel like I have a lot more knowledge now just about like all these sports that like I don't pay attention to, but I'm like listening to Kendra talk too about it, and like she's so smart, like knows so much about what she's saying. Then I'm like, okay, this is cool because I get to talk about what I want, but I'm also learning.
Yeah, no, after doing all that, you can definitely hear the confidence when you speak. There's not really any stutters, not really any searching for the words that you're trying to put down. I think that's just definitely helped for practice.
I do too. And, and what's really funny is we'd really love to see you and have you in studio. From the pictures that I saw online, I'm like, oh my God, she's a knockout. Seriously. So being on camera, I think you're going to be fine.
Well, thank you. I needed that confidence.
Well, I think that's a perfect way to segue into our next break. Sarah, we'll be right back to speak with you. We have Sarah Griffin on right now, a journalist who covers the NHL, MLB, as well as the PLL and NLL. We'll be right back. This is 40 Sports Talk. Thank you for listening.
our seniors and providing youth enrichment opportunities, such as soccer and hoop shoots, fishing derbies, and dictionary projects, while also providing academic scholarships. The Elks are over 800 strong locally, and their members are their greatest asset. To learn more, you can go to attleboroelks.org. Remember, Elks care, Elks share.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to 4 Deep Sports Talk here at 1320 AM WARA. If you want to call in, 508-222-1320, and we are with Sarah Griffin as we speak. So, Justin, do you have a question?
Yes. Sarah, this is Justin Ferrer again, and my second question for you is, if you played any sports, what sport did you play the most?
Ooh, I did play lacrosse growing up, but weirdly, I think the sport that I played the most, I don't know if I was super into like dance, like competitively. I did that all throughout elementary, middle school, high school, and then some of college as well, actually.
Hey, Sarah, if I remember correctly, you did do gymnastics in high school, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, okay.
Sarah, so far throughout this interview, I have not just heard one thing you could not do. That's insane that you did dance and
Right?
gymnastics, too, on top of the broadcast. Wow. No, that's awesome to see. Did you say that you did a little bit of dance at Bridgewater State?
Yeah, we just had like a dance like company team type thing, and I just did it for senior and sophomore year, and then once I was like, okay, if that was good, I was still like, yeah, I'm going to be a teacher. So I'm like, well, I have student teaching coming up. Like, I have to balance my time better. So.
No, that's just great to have those skills in the back just in case you need them one day. That's really cool to see.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, no, one day you might have to just dance for the crowd at one of these games or something. Might end up being a little bit of Macarena or something. We see that. Okay, then Casey, do you have any follow-up questions you want to ask real quick?
Yeah, I did. I was just wondering, like, what is the difference between boys hockey and girls hockey?
Yeah,
Because
so
we rarely see any girls hockey on TV.
I know. With women's hockey, there's actually two different professional like leagues kind of going on. But I actually used to cover the Boston Pride. I did their podcast. Like when they first started off, they had a podcast, and it was me, Spencer Fischetta, who now is, I think he's like hockey analytics at Yale, to be honest, like some like crazy cool job in hockey. And then their head coach at the time. And so I like went to a few Pride games just to kind of get a feel for it. And I feel like the women's game, it's kind of like the same thing with like men and women's lacrosse. It is not definitely as like hard hitting, but I almost feel like it's kind of a lot faster because like you can't be making these dirty plays, and like there's a lot more restrictions on the type of hits that you can take, so that they're so skilled. Like I'm watching them and I'm like, I can barely stand up on skates, let alone like handle a puck the way they can and like weave in and out of each other.
Yeah, no, seeing hockey players in person always blows my mind. Just the speed that they're going at is just crazy to see the turns they're making too.
Oh, it's so nuts.
Yeah, then you obviously mentioned how there's a slight difference between boys and girls lacrosse, where the fact that you can't have as many hits as boys lacrosse for girls lacrosse. Do you think that kind of leads to just a little bit more smooth play in transition that you see? Obviously, they're not going to crash the boards. They're going to make the pass. They're going to disrupt the passing lanes. Has it kind of become more of a skill-based than a physical-based game?
Yeah, I definitely think that's how I always view it when I view the women's game, just because you hear so many people like, oh, women's like lacrosse or hockey is more boring because there's no like hitting or anything. I'm like, are you actually watching? Because they are so, like, I feel like that adds to it because they're so skilled. They don't have that option to just like smack into each other. That it's like, okay, you have to be the best of the best, like to beat each other out in these like defensive battles. And when you're in transition, you have to be the fastest person out there. Like, you can't just slam into someone to get yourself in front of the puck or whatnot.
Yeah, when you can't rely on physicality, that's really when you see who is the best of the best, for sure. I used to not really be too interested in women's sports. I cannot lie to you, Sarah. Then everything completely changed when I started announcing girls lacrosse last spring. Realized those girls on that team are better than most of the men that I see play. It's pretty awesome to see. I can't even lie. They're just really smooth in transition. They work as one unit. You can just see insane passes in
Girl
the game.
power.
There you go.
It's pure athleticism, I feel like, in women's sports. Like, that's all you see is just, like, how. They're so talented, so skilled, just pure athleticism.
No, 100%. It can't be faked at all. And then, Justin, did you have any questions you'd like to ask her?
Yeah, I'm going to ask this anyway, but I think I already know the answer, and that is, are you a hardcore Boston sports fan?
Yes, I am very much a hardcore Boston sports fan.
Sarah, you been keeping up with the Celtics all lately?
I won't lie, that's like the one team I do not keep up too much with. Basketball much.
I knew there had to be some sport there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a reason I
I know
didn't pick
they're
the
doing
Bruins or
super
the...
well, but that's all I got.
No, I probably should have picked the Bruins or probably the Red Sox there. One of the leagues that she actually covers, probably not the one league she doesn't.
So, Sarah, what do you think about the decision on Major League Baseball?
I'm super excited, obviously.
So am I.
It's going to be so great to have baseball back because I was really getting worried there. They were just kept saying, like, oh, yeah, like, now it's delayed till April 14th. There could be another 2 weeks. And
Right.
I'm like, come on. Like, baseball, I feel like everyone says they're like, yeah, it's America's pastime. So I'm like, they're losing that audience if you just keep, like, pushing your fans away like this. So I'm so glad. And I know already everyone's pretty much at spring training. I've been following the Red Sox socials, just seeing everyone arrive is making me so excited.
Yeah. As soon as you see the truck pull up and, oh, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest worry about those type of strikes, basically, I was thinking the uncertainty of when they're going to come back. The fact that it just kind of withered away, now they're actually going to be playing, they have the new set deal, it just takes a weight off your shoulders, basically. You're not wondering when are they going to make a deal, when are they going to start talking to the other side again. It's just done now.
Oh, the turnover was insane. It was like, okay, they make a deal, then the next day they're like, all right, everyone off to spring training.
Yeah, I believe there was one day when they were discussing deals. I believe it was the last day before the deadline. It was about 9 deals laid in front of the Players Association. Denied every single one of them. Finally found that perfect deal, though. Now we're back for professional baseball.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be a lot better having them back on TV.
So, Sarah, I have another question. Do you cover any local high school sports?
Surprisingly, no. I tried getting a couple positions. It was last summer, right before I got into lacrosse. I saw all these local sports jobs that I was applying for. And obviously, a big part of sports media, you get rejected so
Right.
many times. I was like, come on, I'm right here. I can go to all these games.
And they just didn't have a need, or why? Why the
thinking
rejection?
Some other people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a lot of things have to line up perfectly for those type of things.
Right,
Obviously,
right.
Yeah.
in the sports media world, kind of need a perfect storm if you really want the guy. Yes.
No, and you can't ever take it personally. That's the first advice when I decide to make the switch to sports media. I asked a couple people. I'm like, what would be your biggest advice? Don't be scared away by any sort of rejection because it's going to happen. It's going to happen a lot, and you just have to keep going.
No, 100%. If you just keep your head down, keep working. And one of the best things to do with the rejection is use that as fuel for the future. Just keep working. Want to prove those doubters wrong.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, Sarah, is there any big events, basically, any big writing pieces that are going to be coming out soon that you'd like to say to the audience? Give a little bit of shout out for yourself.
This one's a little far off, but actually, so this is just because I am partnering up with the PLL. I'm going to be writing for them this summer. I'm going to be covering the All-Star Game. It's going to be at Gillette. They actually have 2 events this year at Gillette, which I'm super excited about, but the big one is the All-Star Game, July 16th. So I'm going to be doing a lot of coverage of that. I've already started the preparation for it. I'm super, super excited just to have the opportunity to cover an All-Star Game.
Yeah, what an opportunity. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is so cool.
I'm so excited.
That's got to be the best of the best of the best right there.
Right,
That's top 1% of the top 1%, the All-Stars from the PLL. That's going to be so cool, actually. And then, so Sarah, do you have any planned guests, basically, for the upcoming... Actually, wait, today is Saturday. Do you have a Saturday in Seltzers being filmed later today, I'm realizing?
We actually, so we're kind of frauds. It's Saturdays and Seltzers, but we record on Wednesdays or Thursdays.
I knew it.
Yeah, I was completely tricked there.
We're not that good with the timing, so it comes out like exactly at midnight. So it came out last night, right around midnight. I was actually with Kendrick, so it was her birthday. So we both got the notification. We're like, oh, it's up.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, happy birthday, Kendra, I guess.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, I'm realizing now that I probably should have made that connection in my mind that the editing would take a couple days before it's being posted on Saturday. That makes a lot more sense. Kind of forget everything's not live sometimes.
Right.
Okay, we got about 2 minutes before our third and final break. Justin or KC, or even Lucy, do any of you guys have any questions you'd like to ask?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay,
Sure,
yeah,
I still got more.
You got more, Justin?
Go for it.
Oh, okay, let's go. Coming in.
All right. How long do you want to continue sports journalism for?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I've always just been like, all right, I'm going to just keep doing it as long as I enjoy it, because it is something, like, I talk to my friends and I'm like, I'm super lucky to have the job that I do. Like I just get to cover hockey and lacrosse every day. So I say until I stop enjoying it, then maybe that's what all right, let's see. Do I want to go back to teaching? Is there something new I want to try? But for right now, I'm so happy with where I am. So I say for a while.
Exactly. Why mess with happiness?
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's true, Justin. Yeah, so no, for sure. Just keep doing what makes you happy, obviously. If this does keep making you happy, being able to write or talk for your job just for your entire life has to be one of the luckiest things in the world, honestly. That is kind of one of the best positions you can be in. You're not going to end up doing too much physical labor. You end up hurting your back or anything. You're not going to be stuck behind a desk. There's not going to be so many negatives that come with it. You're going to be enjoying your time.
No.
Yeah. It's 100% is just going to be the best job on earth. You're basically hanging out with your friends behind a camera all day. It's pretty awesome.
It really is like that. Like, sometimes I'll be sitting at home just working remotely, and I'm like just sitting there watching hockey, and I'm like, I'm getting paid to do this.
Well, it definitely sounds like a lot of fun. And you're having the time of your life. And you're young. That's the other thing. So when you do get in front of camera, you're going to be fine.
I hope so.
No, we can guarantee that. Okay, we are going into our third and final break right now. We have Sarah Griffin on the line. She is one of the journalists for the NHL, MLB, NLL, and PLL. We'll be right back to continue this interview. This was Joe Dez, Lucy Cabral, KC, and Justin, of course, the sports master. We'll be right back. Thank you for listening.
experiencing a mental health or substance use related crisis. The event is open to the public, though
resume, get ready for college, or learn how to speak better English. Class is held during the day, evening, or on Saturdays. View our website, theliteracycenter.com, or call 508-226-3603. The Literacy Center, building a better community.
Welcome back to 40 Sports Talk on 1320 AM radio WARA. Today we have Sarah Griffin with us, a journalist for the MLB, NHL, PLL, and NLL. We are going to finish up this interview, get into our last segment. Sarah, are you still with us?
Of course.
Okay, Sarah, to start off this final quarter, I'd like to ask you, do you have any specific shout-outs you'd like to give to anyone you work with, anyone that you're friends with, anything that's coming up in the future for you, just basically anything at all?
I definitely will have to give a shout out just to my co-host Kendra Middleton, because she is someone she's actually covering her first college hockey playoff game today, UMass Lowell. So definitely tune in on
How cool is that? That's awesome.
Yeah, super exciting.
No, it is really
cool. 4:30?
You said 4:30?
Yes.
So 4:30 UMass Lowell. Then did you say it was girls hockey or do you say it was hockey?
I believe it's just men's hockey.
Men's hockey, okay.
Wow.
If you want to check out Kendra Middleton, check out the UMass Lowell hockey at 4:30 p.m. today. That'll be awesome.
Sure. Is it on a call dial? Is it on radio or TV?
It's on Nesson, actually.
It's on Nesson today?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool. No, because of all the March Madness going on with basketball, I thought,
I gotta try to
Wasn't
catch.
sure.
I gotta try to catch that on Nesson.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I'm
awesome.
definitely going to tune in.
Okay, well, Sarah, I've kind of paused there for a second. Not going to leave any dead air time. That's my bad. But so Sarah, obviously you gave the shout out to Kendra Middleton, and you started off that podcast with her. When did you guys actually meet? Like, how did you actually meet Kendra Middleton?
So we met last summer. We had a lot of just like this, I think, mutual friends that at some point over the summer we like ended up running into each other. And then from there, it was just like we kind of started talking more just back and forth on social media and whatnot. And we're like, I feel like we have a good connection going here. Like we have a good kind of like yin-yang thing. So then I had always wanted to start a podcast, but I did not know anyone to start it with. And she was kind of in the same boat. And we're like, let's just try it out and see how it goes. And since then, so we started in the middle of July. That's when we first recorded. And it's been pretty seamless since then. Like, we've had no issues. Like, I know there's a lot of people where it's like the podcast, like they have some sort of falling out at some point or no, it's been so much fun just every week.
And where do you record?
Sometimes I'll go to her house just because she kind of has like a studio setup because she
Nice.
does some extra
Wow.
stuff as well.
Mhm.
Like she does a lot of like stuff with DraftKings, so she'll record stuff in her apartment, in her office. So sometimes I'll go there. But for the most part, I just record from my house, and then we are just over Zoom and do it. And she's really good with all the editing, and she's like very skilled actually with editing. That was like an understatement. I don't know how to do any of that, but she always makes it sound like top tier.
So is that podcast just audio or is it video as well?
It's audio and video. We also post it to YouTube.
Oh, nice. No, that's awesome. Sometimes it really does help when you can see the people's talking's actual face because it really connects you to the person a lot more.
Absolutely.
And then you mentioned the yin and yang aspect with you and Kendra. Having someone that you can play off like that, a little bit of compatibility, obviously opposites attract like that, that makes it just so much a better show. You can't really have everyone with the same exact opinion. You need someone who does a little bit of diversity within that. You need to have it just split up a little bit.
Oh, yeah, it really works out because, one, our personalities are so different, but then also, so Kendra's actually from Jacksonville, Florida, so she's not a Boston sports fan,
Oh.
which makes for, like, some great conversations, especially when it comes to football because she's a Jaguars fan.
Absolutely. She's a Jaguars fan? Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
So do you guys like have like a rivalry like between Boston and like Jacksonville sports?
Not even really, because obviously the Jaguars are so bad that it's
Oh,
easy for me to poke fun at her, but then at the same time, she's able to poke fun at me because she's like, you're just like stereotypical Boston sports fan, like think you're better than everyone.
because I gotta tell you, in my household, my mom, she's actually from Chicago and she grew up a Bears fan, and we would sometimes like be a rivalry, like when they would play against the Patriots.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's like when the Jaguars came to New England, I was like, oh, you guys are not going to want to watch this one. Like,
Oh.
Kendrick did end up going to the game, and of course the Jaguars got like blown out.
Oh,
So that was kind of like a little rivalry we had that week, but I think we both kind of knew what the results would be.
Yeah, Sarah, you talking about that remind me of this. There was a quote from Joel Embiid, who was the main center for the Philadelphia 76ers, and they were talking about the rivalry with the Boston Celtics, basically. And he just looked at the camera and he said, we don't have a rivalry. They just kill us every single time we play them. That's basically how it is with Jacksonville versus New England. There's really no rivalry there.
Exactly.
Okay, so Sarah, as we basically finish this up, is there any final shout-outs? We obviously asked you that at the beginning of the quarter, but is there anything, as like the end of the show comes to wrap up, is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we end this?
I think my big thing would just be obviously pushing that lacrosse coverage. So if you are interested in lacrosse, I would say definitely follow Lacrosse Flash. Of course, we have very good coverage of that. But also just anyone in the New England area, if you want to go to a lacrosse game, the PLL is coming for the All-Star game, as well as the first round of playoffs is actually going to be at Gillette, too, in September.
Nice. Yeah, Sarah, I can promise you I'm going to get as many people as I can to make a big group and go to that All-Star game. It's going to be awesome.
Yes, please do.
Okay.
Definitely. And you know what? At a later date, I'd love to have you and your co-host here live in the studio.
yeah,
That would
definitely.
be cool.
Sure. That would be really fun.
Yeah, definitely. Love to have you both.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, Sarah, we were just going to finish the show by reading a few scores. Would you like to stay on the line, or would you want us to let you go? Because I'll be honest, you might not be too interested in the local sports story.
I would say I don't want to hold you guys back.
Yeah. Okay, well, this has been Sarah Griffin. There, you can check her out on multiple platforms. There's thepitcherlist.com, lacrosseflash.com. Her own podcast right now is Saturdays and Seltzers with Kendra Middleton. You can check out, even if you look up Sarah Griffin, your first website that comes up is her. You're going to be able to find her pretty easily.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Sarah. It was great to hear
Yeah,
from you.
really appreciate it. You were great.
Yeah, you
were
did great.
Awesome.
Thank you. And like I said, we'd love to have you and your co-host back here in studio live at a later date.
1000%.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. This was awesome. You were just amazingly spoken during this.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great day.
Yeah,
You
too.
as well.
Thanks. Bye.
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 Okay. Well, that was Sarah Griffin. That was a great interview, guys.
It
That was
sure
awesome.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great.
Okay, we are going to finish this up with some sports scores. Casey, I believe that you've got a couple that you want to read, right?
Yeah, it was only from Division 1. Are we going to have music?
You know, Casey, I almost forgot the music. I'm going to load that up right now.
How dare you, Joe?
No, I know.
Uh-oh.
No,
Uh-oh.
Casey, I'm shocked you didn't get a little more mad at me there. You were a little too calm for that. I almost forgot the biggest part of this.
Oh, no, it's okay. I was actually expecting it to be on. All right, so
Wait 1 second, Casey. I'm not going to make you do this without your music. We are just loading this up right now.
That's okay.
Yeah, not going to leave
We'll wait
any
for
dead.
you.
Yeah, we're all good. So, Casey, you want to elaborate a little bit more? Are you going to be reading the basketball scores, or what is it that you're going to be reading?
just boys basketball in Division 1. Probably not going to have time to read all of them.
Yeah, one thing I can say last night, unfortunately, was Bishop Fee and girls, they traveled very far. They played Catholic Central. Unfortunately, an amazing season came to an end last night. Just amazing players on that team. Cam Fourier, Lydia Mordarski, Kieran McGurk. There's just so many. Kenzie Forty. I could go on all day. But they unfortunately lost. But they had just a great season. Overall, just a great job. We were just
Yeah.
getting past this 5-second ad right now, trying to buy as much
No,
time
no,
as I
that's
can. But
okay,
now we
that's
are all
okay.
good. Casey, you ready for your scores?
Yeah, so like I said, I am going to be reading the boys basketball scores only from Division 1, and it's only from boys basketball. So, in a preliminary round, Lynn English over Woburn, 67-53. Hingham over St. Paul, 53-35. Haverhill over Framingham, 62-56. Cambridge over Peabody, 82-66. Durfee over Marshfield, 54-49. Wellesley over Hopkinton, 58-44. Methuen over Medford, 69-64. Brockton over Lincoln Sudbury, 61-55. St. John's Shrewsbury over North Andover, 63-56. And Concord Carlisle over Reading, 69-65. And that's the preliminary round. And in the first round, BC High over Lynn English, 82-43. Worcester North over Everett, 66-54. Central Catholic over Hingham, 79-42. Beverly over Haverhill, 87-50. Springfield Central over Cambridge, 77-60. Brookline over Newton South, 79-62. Catholic Memorial over Attleboro, 66-62. Franklin over Durfee, 60-39. Newton North over Wellesley, 64-51. Westford over St. John's Prep in a close game, 41-40. Needham over Methuen, 51-41. Brockton over Lexington, 59-58. Andover over St. John's Shrewsbury, 60-46. Winchester over Natick, 56-55. Wachusett over Bridgewater Raynham, 75-55. And Taunton over Concord Carlisle, 64-59. And that is the first round. And in the second round, we have BC High over Worcester North, 76-48. Central Catholic over Beverly, 82-75. Springfield Central over Brookline, 93-56. Catholic Memorial over Franklin, 81-78. Newton North over Westford, 44-43. Needham over Brockton, 56-49. Andover over Winchester, 57-44. Wachusett over Taunton, 62-51. And that is the second round. And last but not least, in the quarterfinals, with BC High taking on Central Catholic, Springfield Central will be taking on Catholic Memorial, Newton North will be taking on Needham, and Andover will be taking on Wachusett. Those game times and locations are to be determined.
Yeah, so far throughout the entire playoffs, BC High has just been dominating. 39 points win in the first game, 28-point win in the second game, averaging 33.5 points over their opponents so far throughout these playoffs, just continuing their dominant streak. They went undefeated this season.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. We're going to have to get some of them in studio someday.
No, for sure. We're going to be working on that as much as we can. This has been 40 Sports Talk, though, with Joe Dez, Justin Ferreira, the Sportsmaster, Lucy Cabral, Catherine Conley, a.k.a. KC. We interviewed Sarah Griffin today. An amazing job by her. Went over the scores right there, but this will be at the end of the show. Tune back in next week. I believe that we have a guest next week. It's going to be the Foxborough men's basketball team or boys basketball team, of course?
Yes.
That's going to be
we're
great.
We're going to have them in studio, from what I understand.
Yeah, so tune in at 12 p.m. next Saturday. Foxborough boys basketball is going to be coming in. I believe their coach will be joining us. So make sure you call in at 508-222-1320. That is 508-222-1320. This is it for the show. Thank you for listening.